Many people claim that starting the day with a glass of water is a beneficial habit, and there's some truth to that. However, few consider that morning hydration can be harmful if certain nuances are not taken into account. It sounds paradoxical since we're only talking about water. But as we age, the body undergoes changes, and what seemed beneficial in your 30s or 40s may not be so harmless in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. It's not that a person is doing something wrong, but that their body needs more gentle care and a conscious approach. Years of life are behind us, and vital organs such as the heart, kidneys, and digestive system have been through a lot. Therefore, the body is especially vulnerable after waking up. Hormonal background changes, blood pressure stabilizes, and the stomach and muscles gradually wake up. And if these factors are not taken into account, even something as simple as water can lead to undesirable consequences. The video analyzes 5 common mistakes that many people make when drinking water immediately after waking up, often without realizing it. Viewers will receive useful information on how to avoid these mistakes and confidently start their day with proper care for their body. The first common mistake is drinking ice water on an empty stomach. Has anyone wondered why, after a large gulp of cold water in the morning, you sometimes experience stomach discomfort or chills? Some people even experience dizziness or headaches without associating it with drinking ice water. The truth is that drinking ice water on an empty stomach can be a real shock to the body, which isn't ready for it. During sleep, the body is in a state of relaxation and recovery. Organs work more slowly, digestion slows down, and blood vessels constrict slightly. Drinking ice water immediately after waking up is like slamming on the brakes of an engine that hasn't warmed up yet. This causes tension in the stomach muscles, further constriction of blood vessels, and puts the body in a state of high alert. With age, the body's ability to quickly recover from such stress decreases. In younger years, cool water gave a feeling of freshness and a surge of energy. However, over time, a person's metabolism changes, blood circulation becomes more susceptible to external influences, and internal thermoregulation mechanisms are no longer as effective at coping with extreme temperatures. As a result, drinking cold water can lead to a deterioration in well-being. The problem is not the water itself, but the sharp temperature contrast it creates for the body at a certain time of day. As an example, consider the story of Eleanor, a sharp-witted 76-year-old woman who used to enjoy a morning glass of ice water straight from the refrigerator. She claimed it helped her clear her throat and fully wake up. But over time, she began to notice that her hands were constantly cold. She had unpleasant cramps in her stomach, and her digestion slowed down all morning. The situation changed dramatically when her doctor advised her to switch to room-temperature water. Within a week, her mornings became calmer and smoother, and the discomfort in her stomach disappeared. This minor adjustment, letting the water warm up a bit or using warm water, had a huge impact on her well-being. This case serves as a great reminder that habits that once benefited us do not always remain relevant throughout our lives. The human body, which faithfully serves us for decades, deserves more gentle care. And the least we can do is offer it water that doesn't cause a feeling of sudden awakening in the morning. So, if you're used to starting your day with a gulp of ice water, try replacing it with room-temperature water and observe your body's reaction for a few days. You may be pleasantly surprised at how much more comfortable your morning becomes. The second common mistake is drinking water too quickly or in large gulps. Of course, after waking up, there is a temptation to grab a glass and drink it in one go, especially if you are thirsty or have a dry mouth. However, drinking water too quickly, especially in the first few minutes after waking up, can disrupt the balance in the body, and many people don't even realize it. The fact is that when we wake up, our body is still in a state of transition. Heart rate gradually increases, blood pressure stabilizes, and the gastric mucosa has not yet fully activated. All body systems gradually return to an active state after a long night's rest. And suddenly, we drink a whole glass of water in one gulp. This sudden surge of fluid can lead to rapid stomach expansion, causing bloating, nausea, or even dizziness. Sometimes people experience unexplained sensations in the chest without realizing the cause. However, the root of the problem lies not in the water itself, but in the pace at which it is consumed. Gulping down liquid too quickly doesn't allow the body to process it properly. The kidneys start working overtime, trying to cope with the sudden influx of fluid. The body's electrolyte balance shifts dramatically, which is especially noticeable for older adults whose systems are more susceptible to such fluctuations. This can trigger a chain reaction, leading to general malaise for several hours. For example, consider the story of Walter, a 72-year-old retired coach. He shared that every morning, before even getting out of bed, he would drink an entire bottle of water, considering it an act of discipline and self-care. However, he often experienced strange dizziness in the mornings, which worried him. After consulting with a doctor, it turned out that the reason was the speed and volume of water he was drinking. Walter's body simply couldn't adapt to such a rapid intake of fluid. So, he made one simple but effective change to his daily routine. He began to savor each sip of water slowly, over 15 to 20 minutes. No rushing, no greedy thirst quenching. And as if by magic, the agonizing dizziness disappeared. His mornings became more pleasant, and his energy remained stable and consistent throughout the day. No dramatic changes in medication, no exotic methods, just a more mindful approach to water consumption. And here's something to think about. The human body doesn't crave a morning flood. It prefers a gentle, soothing stream. Don't rush. Sit down, take a deep breath, and sip slowly. Allow your body to gratefully receive the water rather than being overwhelmed by its excess. This isn't a sprint, but a moment of self-care. If you're used to gulping down a glass of water, trying to get rid of the feeling of thirst as quickly as possible, try slowing down tomorrow and listening to your sensations. Sometimes the slightest change can work wonders. The third common mistake: drinking water from plastic bottles that have been sitting out all night. This may come as a surprise, especially to those who are used to keeping a bottle of water handy near the bed. I admit many of us are guilty of this. It's convenient, always within reach, and seems like a harmless habit. However, most people don't realize that drinking water from plastic containers that have been sitting out all night, especially in a warm room, can expose the body to harmful chemicals that it doesn't need at all. Seemingly ordinary, a bottle of water harbors a hidden danger. Over time, it can release harmful substances into its contents. Bisphenol A, BPA, commonly found in older models of plastic or products of dubious quality, is of particular concern. And even if the label proudly proclaims BPA-free, don't let your guard down, because the plastic may contain similar chemical compounds with a similar effect. Under the influence of heat and time, these substances act as endocrine disruptors, capable of mimicking or disrupting the body's natural hormonal balance. With age, hormonal balance becomes especially vulnerable. Many people take medication to support thyroid function, control blood pressure, or regulate blood sugar levels. The intrusion of foreign chemicals, even in small amounts, can create additional difficulties for the body in the process of self-regulation. Not immediately apparent, the negative impact gradually accumulates. Over time, people notice increased fatigue, irritability, bloating, or a general feeling of discomfort without finding obvious causes. The story of Stanley, a 78-year-old, is a telling example of how even a seemingly harmless habit can have unexpected health consequences. For a long time, he unfailingly followed a seemingly beneficial ritual. He filled a plastic bottle with tap water and placed it at the head of his bed so that he could quench his thirst every morning. However, after a few months, Stanley began to experience inexplicable symptoms. Headaches became his constant companions, his digestion was failing, and he felt tired even after a long night's rest. At the same time, his diet remained unchanged, and doctors found no serious abnormalities. Only a conversation with a nutritionist shed light on the cause of his ailment. As it turned out, the culprit was his plastic bottle. Having been repeatedly filled and reused, it was also exposed to heat from the bedside lamp throughout the night. The solution was to use a glass bottle and fill it with fresh water every morning. Surprisingly, within a few weeks, Stanley's condition improved significantly. His headaches became less intense, his energy levels increased, and he felt invigorated and healthy again. Of course, no one claims that one sip of water from a plastic bottle can cause irreparable harm to health. However, regular consumption of water from such containers over a long period can lead to the accumulation of harmful substances in the body. The liver, kidneys, and hormonal system are forced to work harder to neutralize these substances. For older people, like Stanley, this extra burden can be quite significant. So, if you have a plastic bottle of water on your bedside table, it might be worth considering a small upgrade. Switching to a glass or stainless steel bottle and filling it with fresh water every morning is a simple change that can significantly ease the burden on your body and improve your well-being. The fourth common mistake people make is drinking water on an excessively full or empty stomach immediately after taking medication. Consider a typical start to the day. A person wakes up, takes their prescribed medication, and washes it down with a generous portion of water. At first glance, everything seems correct, as doctors often recommend taking pills with water. However, in practice, few specify how much liquid is needed, when it should be consumed, and how food intake relates to this process. And this seemingly insignificant detail can play a significant role. The fact is that an excessive amount of water, drunk too quickly on a completely empty stomach immediately after taking medication, can provoke nausea, cause bloating, and even lead to heartburn. This can negatively affect the gastric mucosa and disrupt the process of drug absorption by the body. On the other hand, a hearty breakfast accompanied by a large amount of water can also create obstacles, especially for those drugs that are intended to be taken on an empty stomach. The human digestive system is much more sensitive than is commonly believed. In the morning hours, it is still in the process of restoring balance. Hormonal levels are regulated, and acidity levels are subject to change. And when several pills washed down with a full glass of water enter the body during this period, the system may react unexpectedly, signaling its unreadiness for such a load. Let me share the story of Margaret, an elderly woman of 80 years, who for many years adhered to a strict medication regimen to maintain the health of her thyroid gland. Every morning began with an unchanging ritual, taking a pill, washing it down with a large amount of water, and taking a short break before breakfast. However, quite unexpectedly, she began to experience bouts of nausea that arose for no apparent reason. There were no changes in the composition of the medication she was taking, and no new foods in her diet. Blood test results remained within the normal range, but the unpleasant sensations did not go away. Eventually, Margaret's doctor showed insight and inquired about her water consumption habits. It was then that the cause of the ailment was discovered. It turned out that the patient was drinking too much liquid immediately after taking the medication, which created an excessive burden on her stomach. It was decided to make a slight adjustment to her morning routine. Instead of a large glass of water, Margaret began to take only small sips, enough to swallow the pill. After that, she waited 45 minutes before eating. To her surprise, the nausea stopped, and subsequent blood tests showed even better results than before. This example demonstrates how important it can be to pay close attention to your body after taking medication. If symptoms such as nausea, sluggishness, or discomfort occur after taking morning medication, you should not immediately attribute them to side effects of the medication or age-related changes. Perhaps the reason lies in the peculiarities of their intake, in particular, their interaction with water. You should try to limit yourself to small sips, divide meals into several stages, and not overload the stomach immediately after taking pills. The body needs time to adapt. In some cases, the solution to the problem lies not in radical changes, but in a more careful attitude towards your health. The fifth common nutritional mistake we should discuss is the habit of skipping breakfast, replacing a complete meal with just a glass of water. In today's world, where information flows like a river, it's important to remember that not all advice is equally beneficial for everyone. It's common to hear recommendations to start the morning with water, skip breakfast, and consciously restrict food intake. While this approach might be justified for young people or those following strict diets and wellness programs, for older individuals, starting the day with only water and ignoring breakfast can become a silent enemy, gradually undermining the body's strength. After a night's sleep lasting 8 to 10 hours, the human body is already experiencing hunger. Blood sugar levels drop, and energy reserves are depleted. The brain needs fuel for clear thinking, and muscles need nutrients to maintain strength. Satisfying hunger with only water may not initially cause discomfort. However, after some time, many begin to experience fatigue, weakness, irritability, and decreased concentration. Often, these symptoms are mistakenly attributed to stress or lack of sleep, without realizing that the root of the problem lies in insufficient nutrition. Water undoubtedly plays a crucial role in restoring the body's cellular water balance. However, it would be imprudent to believe that it can replace all the necessary nutrients required for the body's proper functioning. This is especially true when water consumption is accompanied by coffee and the absence of other food. This practice can lead to an even greater imbalance in the body, stimulating its activity without providing the necessary foundation. Over time, this can significantly hinder morning awakening and the start of the day. For example, consider Alice, a 69-year-old woman known for her sharp mind and independence, who sought to simplify her morning routine. Enticed by the idea of intermittent fasting, she gave up breakfast, limiting herself to only water until noon. Initially, she noticed a slight weight loss, which made her believe in the effectiveness of this method. However, she soon began to notice a decline in mood and memory clarity, repeating the same things without realizing it. Alarmed, her daughter advised her to seek medical attention. During the examination, no serious health problems were found. The cause of Alice's deteriorating condition was insufficient nutrient intake in the morning. The woman's brain was functioning in an energy-deficient state. As soon as a light breakfast consisting of just a boiled egg, a piece of toast, and a small amount of fruit was added to her diet, her energy returned. She felt invigorated, balanced, and returned to her usual state. This minor dietary shift restored the clarity of mind and strength she hadn't felt for several months. Don't settle for less, especially when it comes to the first meal of the day. Clean water is undoubtedly important for maintaining health, but the body needs complete fuel for an active start. A small portion of protein, some fiber, that's what's needed to maintain clarity of mind and a feeling of strength in the body. If someone previously neglected breakfast, believing it was beneficial, they should try adding something simple to their morning routine: a handful of nuts, a serving of oatmeal, or even a smoothie. The result may be surprisingly pleasant. Well-being will improve if you give the body what it needs. It's amazing how the water we've been familiar with since childhood begins to be perceived differently with age. It's not about the water itself changing, but about the transformation of the body. The body becomes wiser, more sensitive, and requires more careful attention. Today's discussion is dedicated to this: mindfulness, not fear or strict rules. It's important to learn to notice minor details that can have a significant impact on daily well-being. If the morning doesn't go well, if you feel lethargy, bloating, anxiety, or brain fog, it doesn't always indicate serious problems. Often, it's just a signal to make a small adjustment to your usual routine. It's possible that tomorrow you'll prefer room temperature water, giving up ice water. Perhaps you'll drink more slowly, taking small sips instead of rushing. You might replace an old plastic bottle with a new glass one, and perhaps the most significant change will be combining water with a light breakfast to provide the body with the necessary energy. If something you've seen resonated with you, if something made you look at your daily routine in a new way, that's great. It demonstrates continued growth, learning, and caring for your health. This mindset is very important. The author expresses gratitude for your time and hopes that the reader will try one of the suggested tips to evaluate their feelings. It is important to trust your body, as it will always let you know its needs.